John, you back?
Oh, we're back. But this is great. I mean, I've had my cocoa. The snow is still falling here in the uplands. I mean, this.
Should we jump straight back into it?
On to the next one.
So
now we should be in the center of the book because we have
nasty surprises.
I thought there were 12. I thought there were 12 charms, but if there are two cherubim, then there's 13 on this thing. But really, I'm just going to go with links, Nick. That we got 9 links here, and this is the 5th link.
This is the center link.
Now, it looks to me more like a raccoon than a devil. But
like a raccoon. It's exactly like a raccoon.
But, only those of us who have seen American raccoons, which aren't anything like the cartoon raccoons, would link that with a devil. Because, boy, raccoons, scary
really
animals.
Smart, too.
Only
apes are smarter than raccoons. They can undo knots. Crafty.
Wow.
Yeah, and their teeth. Scary now. You've got children, you see a raccoon, you're like, oh boy, this is like a shark, All right. Here we have at the hinge, at the middle of the 9 links with the 13 objects, we have this thing. And as it's laid out there, Nick, wonderful representation here, as Rowling has it. You see that we have the latch in the beginning, and we have a latch right in the center. Again, with the golden circle. Sorry, folks, that's solid light in a circle representing the transcendent realm. And then we've got the fallen world and the square, the heavy square there, which is northeast, southwest. It's the four directions. That's the fallen world, and in it, it's the devil's realm. There it is. There's going to be the center of Strike 9. It's going to have the big reveal about who really is the poisoned, who's poisoning the well inside this book, and has been concealed somehow. You hope it's is it Uncle Ted? Oh my gosh, is Uncle Ted? Is Ropey going to give us something about the background that we have no idea about was Lita Strike the offspring of maybe they had the same mother as Uncle Ted, but a different father. All the relationships there. There's a devil inside that box. I think of the Nancaro family in Cornwall, and then there's again RFM. Because RFM we've been going along with him. Robin saying he's so much nicer than Matt is. I think Matt's going to come off as being the flubberworm, as Louise Freeman always called him. The Matt Cullen is going to come off as a really good guy compared to RFM. Or maybe it's just Charlotte. But boy, there's a devil in here somewhere, Nick.
Yeah.
Both of you, who do you think is the devil inside the box in the center of the book?
Well, if Murphy is as bad as Ed Chardlow likes to believe, and it's a possibility, I think you've termed it, John. He's the unexploded bomb that Charlotte has left in the series. Then that's going to be him, and we're gonna find that out in part 5 of book 9.
Maybe so. I think it's interesting where she has that position too, as we're talking about the latches, because it's between the hourglass and the Trojan horse. So it's positioned between cleverness and craftiness and things that we can control and bad surprises, but also time, because we can't control time, and they're both moving objects. The hourglass moves because you flip it over and the sand goes through, and the Trojan horse opens, and it's a moving piece. So there's something about the positioning of it as well, not just as the middle of the story, but what happens on either side of it. Are we going to see a huge amount of time lapse after it because of the hourglass? Or are we going to have a revelation about how fast time gets away from us because of the hourglass? And keep coming back to the troubled blood business and the idea about time. That's the one in which the most time elapses. So are we going to see something happen with that? But the devil, the idea that the devil is lurking there in the middle between those things, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it's the devil trapped in a box. So it's something that has been put away and contained, and something has triggered that release. This is certainly a vintage piece, so it wasn't commissioned. I I found this one on an auction site. It had already sold, and it was described as 1960s or potentially earlier. So not very old, but certainly not recent.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Those of us who were born in the 60s, are grateful to you for. we're vintage, not quite antique.
Yeah.
To me, the thing is this thing is clearly hiding.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's been released. Even the devil's kind of surprised. Oops, they can see me now. Here I am. But what a tell that's in the center. Whew. On we go.
Time is moving on. Tempest Fugit, which I think is suitable because we now come on to the Hourglass. Now, these were really common charms. So from sort of mid-Victorian 1860s on, there are lots of these. There two symbolic meanings in Victorian times were, of course, Tempest Fugit, to remember that time is precious, and also as a memento mori. In the UK, they're almost always called hourglasses. Even though the tiny dimensions of these, the sand crystals last about 3 seconds, so limited use as a timepiece. They were so common. In fact, you can find dozens of them online at quite reasonable prices. I could not find an exact copy of this one, unfortunately, but this is reasonably similar, and this one dates from the 1880s. So I also think the one on J.K. Rowling's bracelet is likely an antique example.
Before we talked about the infinite sign,
Yes.
about being the transcendent and the immanent, and now this hourglass is a representation not only of time flying, and as you said, a memento mori, which for those out there who aren't fluent in Latin, is the remembrance of death. Is a token that you are about to die, and this is a remembrance of that because time is flying. But you also turn the hourglass upside down, and then time is reset. Time is cyclical, and cyclical in a way that's almost stretching to the infinite, because you can see in the hourglass on its side the actual symbol of the infinite. Again, those two circles. This is really quite a rich image. I have no idea, what she's after here, except if I think when we have all the books, all 10 books, we're going to find out that each one of the books has been a specific style of detective fiction. Like she said, I had to write my cult novel, and we had the revenge piece, and every one of these things has been some type of larger of a genre. The clock suggests that there's going to be a thriller element to this book. She has to have suspense. There's going to be a ticking clock. There's going to be an hourglass where the sands are coming through there, and if that bomb is ticking, we know it's going to explode. And maybe that will be halfway through the book. It makes sense in terms of the devil being revealed at the center, that the next thing would be the explosion, the ramifications of that. Has it been revealed that, oh my gosh, we need to find Robin within the next day or she's a dead woman? This kind of suspense thing, that's what to a writer like Rowling, a clock inside the book, and this is a clock of some kind, is going to be that representation of the ticking clock. That's the only idea.
It's interesting to wonder, because she could go with the time's up, time's ticking, or time passing. So I keep wondering which way she's going to go with that. Is it going to be this short time, like we have to, like if it's a bomb, we have to deactivate a bomb, and obviously with Strike's history, that's important. But and we're going to see the bomb squad and have to cut the blue wire. We haven't done that yet. So that form of suspense, or is it? And I love one of the most underrated and fabulous, of course, Shakespeare plays is The Winter's Tale, where you just have this great sequence where just time just passes. He didn't want to fool around. It's like, okay, everybody needs to be an adult now. And there's a wonderful segue in that play where time is a character who walks across the stage, and just as time moves across the stage, time has changed and years have passed. One of the best performances of that's really neat is time. She's wearing a cape as she walks across, and it leaves, and then she drops it and becomes the ground cloth for the second part of the play. So it's really kind of neat. So is it that kind of time passing? I kind of, and which was my initial thought, but I like John's idea much better, that it is an urgency, probably not the hurry up so that you can have children urgency that we've been getting from Murphy, but more of this urgency of saving someone, or rescue urgency.
Well, in case anybody thinks A Winter's Tale is a real stretch, and that only someone consumed by esoteric Shakespeare would bring that up. We know that Rowling, just because of certain names of certain characters, is very familiar with.
Oh, and if I wouldn't be one bit surprised if she's doing that at all. That was what I was kind of hoping for. But I think the exciting pacing aspect of it is probably a better guess.
All right. I mean, again, Nick, your theory that each one of these links is representation of that part of the book.
Yeah.
I love that, especially as it follows on the revelation of the devil, the hidden devil, inside the book. That triggers a chase scene. She's got to have a chase scene because the people at Bront Studio are concerned about what they can do to keep people interested in this story. Which takes us to the next link.
Which is a Yorkshire Rose. And now John found this for me. I couldn't find a good match for J.K. Rowling's. This is probably it's closer than any that I found. So well done, John. And this is well known to people living in the UK. This is the symbol of Yorkshire, the White Rose of Yorkshire. Now, I think people on both sides of the pond will be aware at least of the War of the Roses. And the War of the Roses were between the House of York and the House of Lancaster, and their symbols were white rose for the House of York, red rose for the House of Lancaster. They were fighting for control of the UK, hence it was the War of the Roses. It was won by a likely Welsh lad who came from the lovely Welsh family of Tudor, and his symbol was a combination of the colours of both the House of York and the House of Lancaster. So he combined the white rose of York in the middle and the red rose of Lancaster around the outside. And
a compromise that ruined all of the UK history slides down the slippery slope after that.
Tudor is known as a low point in British culture. I think most people will agree. The shape of this rose is known as a Tudor rose. Actually, strictly speaking, the Tudor rose doesn't occur in nature. We do not get red and white roses. This shape of rose is known as an old-fashioned, and people who take a fairly laid-back attitude to gardening quite like old-fashioned roses. So I have old-fashioned roses in my house. They're very easy to look after. They're very difficult to kill. Most modern roses are this. This is a tea rose, and it's actually it's a sport of a genetic rose, and it has far too many petals for nature to allow it. But you get this lovely sort of cup shape. This is old-fashioned rose. It's very similar to the shape of a briar flower. But so.
Nick, if you go back one to that charm.
Yeah.
What do you see when you look at the center of that?
I'm wondering if that's a trick question. So I think botanists would call that the stamen.
Oh, it's a circle.
I always forget I'm talking about an engineer. Nick, it's a turtle.
This looks like a turtle.
Oh, okay.
You know, and
It's
we
got a
get the
head
turtle
and
back.
4 legs.
Yeah.
We get and a tail. You know, you see there's a little extra tail at the bottom of it, so we get the axis of the story. Just saying, Nick, that you know, before Ed Shardlow is at home doing that. Whoa, John, look at that, look at that. I'm not sure if that's the visible thing. If you go back up to see what hers has,
it still looks pretty turtly.
Where we can see, it looks like a turtle in the center of that as well.
Yeah.
For a turtleback writer, I tell you, Nick, that's quite the pronounced picture there.
Yeah.
Just saying that we're looking then at parallels back to the seraphim or the cherubim, you know, the angelic hosts on the other side, or Cupid and Psyche. Just saying, but really the White Rose, Nick, you know, sorry. Even Rowling, we know from what chapter 33 of Deathly Hallows, the revelation of Snape's agony, that she is more than fluent in the structure and meaning and artistry of the Divine Comedy by Dante, and that almost all of her alchemical stuff is coming from Florence, hence the name of the centaur. You know, Firenze is the Italian word for Florence. That we get a lot of Dante in this thing. And sorry, Nick, as much as the Yorkshire Rose is a big deal and it takes us to Robin, but maybe that's why Robin has been from Yorkshire all the time, is because of the White Rose. Because the White Rose in Dante is not a subtle thing. And especially the Hunger Games fans, I see Elizabeth doing the White Rose, John.
But it's a nice. This is kind of the other side of that. In the Hunger Games, the White Roses are always bad.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, because you know the White Rose that Snow drops on Robin at the beginning and end of Mockingjay are a pointer to her ending, which is the ending in Dante's Paradise. Now, Nick, can you slide through some of these pictures here? Because when you get to cantos 31 and 32, you get and this is what Durer's interpretation of really this angelic host. And this is almost always, when you look up White Rose Dante, this is what you get. I'm really not sure this is the White Rose. You get Blake's White Rose, which I think is the next image, Nick. At the end of the of the book, you get a White Rose, and basically you've got all the saints that are there. You've got, you know, the Virgin Mary elevated above. You got Beatrice who's describing things. I think you've got Bernard there as his guide. Forgive me, my knowledge of Dante is not as good as it should be, but Blake thought this image was so important that he has the white petaled rose in his two things. Now, it's got two parts, two halves that we get explained in detail in Canto 32 of the Paradise. And we're getting really near the end, right? I mean, 33 is pretty much the limit here. This is, you're at the highest levels of Paradise. You've gone through this, the whole thing in Deathly Hallows, where Snape looks into, he says, "Look at me," you know, that scene, and he looks into Harry's green eyes, which are the eyes of Snape's beloved Lily, another white flower of renown, and he transcends the world, because when Dante looks into the eyes of Beatrice, the same emerald green eyes. The reason that we have the green eyes all through the Harry Potter series is so that when Snape looks into the green eyes, he will transcend the world and enter paradise, because that's where it's at the end of the purgatory, you know, the second part of the Divine Comedy, that Dante looks into Beatrice's green eyes and he escapes purgatory and enters into the realm. And he looks into her eyes again to go through all the planets and the realms inside paradise. So we get a real detailed image there, but now we're in paradise and we're at the end of paradise. and we get the white rose. And the white rose has two parts. I think it's the next image. You get the women of the Old Testament who were looking to Christ, and then we have the women of the New Testament that were witnesses of Christ, all of them in adoration of the Blessed Mother. And this in the image of a white rose, hence that picture there. You see the people there in the center and the Virgin Mother, the Panahia right there. I mean, this is, when someone throws a white rose in literature, tell you, Nick, they're not talking about Yorkshire. I mean, this is about the beatific vision in Catholic language, theosis in the Orthodox world, where you're about to look into the energies of God themselves. You're about to see the Holy Trinity as is possible, as much as possible for a fallen human being to experience it in this life or the next. You're not going to see God in his essence at any time, but you can see God in his energies at this level. And he describes that as a white rose, which is this unfolding image, but also, again, the white is the light. And as President Snow says, white is the perfection. White is that really that chrysalis of spiritual experience. So, boy, Nick, when he shows a white rose on this chain, everybody can connect the dots with, we're going to Yorkshire. I get that. I mean, actually, Americans, no, we didn't get that. That's not something we really cover a lot in American history, is the War of the Roses. But boy, if you're a lit person, there aren't that many big figures in literature that are up there with Dante. I mean, maybe you get Virgil, he's in Dante, right? You get Shakespeare, you get, who else, Nick? I mean, Nabokov? I mean, really, this is major leagues, and it's the climax of the book. It's the whole point of his experience, his transformation through his travels through hell, purgatory, and paradise. We get a white rose. We're coming close to the end of Rowling's, magnum opus here, and we get a white rose, Nick. Something happens here, and I'm afraid it's Robin's death. And I've been beating that drum for some time, but it's the mythology. Demetra Feeney, she talked to us about this. Not a happy ending. The psychomachia with the Shakespearean thing. What happens to couples? I'm telling you, Nick, there's a lot of things adding up here that suggest that Robin's not long for this world. And I tell you, if you want to, people have been saying in the comment threads, which are just brilliant. People that write for us, Nick. I mean, this is a treat for me every day. But what they're saying is, no, she wouldn't dare to do that. And I'm just like, yes, she would, because you'll never forget this series if Robin dies at the end. And that Strike has to find her murderer.
I'm starting to get worried, John, because on the same link as this symbol of Robin's impending death, we have a major predator, don't we?
Yes. And Elizabeth doing the excitement thing here. Get a crocodile, and man, what an image.
So there are some theories. So again, very much linking to the Yorkshire theme. There is a rock in Yorkshire called Crocodile Rock. There is a sort of restaurant come club in Whitby called the Crocodile, but nothing really that's capturing the imagination yet. Elizabeth?
and I'm so excited about that thing because, of course, initially people were like, is it an alligator? Like, we are not going to Florida. No, it is not an alligator. And so the people who buy this charm normally for charm bracelets usually are commemorating that trip to Florida. But what's interesting, just like that white rose and that duality, and John is making this beautiful Dante-esque case. I spend a lot of time in the world of the Hunger Games. I don't see the white rose as being beautiful most of the time. I see it as being sterile and being controlled. And, it's a different kind of image, obviously, in Colin's world, primarily because here in America, there are no native white roses. White roses do not occur in nature. And so they are engineered, they are controlled. So, I'm kind of got that. And the alligator or the crocodile, it's definitely a crocodile, has duality.
The Hunger Games people, this is about the apotheosis of Katniss and Peeta. And it has that tawdry
she burns
thing of
those
President
roses.
Snow, but
She puts those roses in the fire, So we have to have
all right,
roses.
all right.
We have to have natural roses.
Elizabeth
So
and I are always going to fight over this one, but
that's
great.
We don't have to fight over it. It's because it's duality. It's both. And so that's what's interesting, is that it's both this beautiful spiritual symbol, but also this idea of the white. It does symbolize perfection. It also symbolizes sterility, which we certainly can see as working with Robin. Coldness. I'm thinking of all this beautiful snow that we have outside right now. It is beautiful. It's lovely, but it's cold and it's deadly. So I don't know if your idea about, Robin's death is that simply the idea of her as accepting her sterility, as accepting herself as being unable to have children. Is that part of it? But the crocodile also has this two-sided thing. We normally think of them as being terrifying. And if you've ever, have either of you ever lived in Florida?
No.
Alligators are the worst. They just are. They're just the worst. I actually spent my first summer when I lived in Florida for a few years. My husband lived there for a long time. And my first summer there, I had actually made the mistake of going to see Jurassic Park. And then I was staying at a Christian camp there in Florida. And in the night, after I'd seen Jurassic Park, I was treated to the sound of the local alligator in the swamp eating a stray dog. It was the worst. It was the absolute worst. It was awful. Alligators don't know what era it is. Alligators are horrifying. Crocodilians in general are really, really horrifying creatures. And yet they have this amazing symbolic value that I am quite certain that crocodile is not a literal crocodilian, although it'd be really awesome if we go to that bar or we go to the Rock in Yorkshire. Where we're really going is book 5 of the Fairy Queen. That's where we're going with that crocodile.
This is so exciting.
Right there, Isis Church. That's where we're headed with Isis. With her foot, one of her feet. I like this. This wood carving is interesting because Spencer very specifically says that Isis has one foot on the crocodile. But there's the crocodile in Isis Church. That's Britomart, the Knight of Chastity. And it's really interesting. Really, book 3 is her book in the Fairy Queen. That's really her, because it's the book of chastity. But she shows up again in book 5 to help out Artegal, her beloved, and these characters whom we know that Rowling loves because she's used them in Troubled Blood, and they are the types of Robin and Strike. They fulfill those roles beautifully. And so this is that image of Britomart. She is seeking Artegal because he's gotten into some trouble with an Amazon. And so he's being held captive, and interestingly enough, being held captive and dressed in drag, because what the horrible Amazonian Radagund did. She's so interesting. She's such a dark version of Britomart, because Britomart is a woman who is a knight, and yet she is completely female as well. She is not, a virago. She is not this anti-man sort of figure. She is wonderful in so many ways, and she has all of these things very much like Robin. Robin does what Strike does, and just as well as he does, but she doesn't make him feel as though she is emasculating him at all by doing the same things he does. So Radagund, who is this horrible Amazonian queen, she captures the men she defeats in battle. In fact, she defeats Artegal by cheating. So if you think about this a little bit with Charlotte too, she cheats. She gets, she's in single combat with Artegal, and she pleads mercy. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I'm a helpless woman. And when he does show her mercy, then she turns on him and then defeats him. So she's a cheater, and she has him held captive. Britomart is on her way to rescue Artegal. Artegal has sent out his his sidekick, the Iron Man, not Robert Downey Jr., but the Iron Man Talus has gone back to to send help. He's more like Lassie, really. He's send help. So he's bringing back Britomart, and on the way she has this episode in the Temple of Isis, or Isis Church. It's a really, really weird part of the Fairy Queen. Spencer does some really, really weird, it's really weird stuff. He does some weird things. And it's interesting. C.S. Lewis points out that it's hard to kind of figure out where Spencer's going, but that he's always, and this is a great little passage he has about Spencer, where he says that he was not an exact scholar, and his mind was so concoctive and in simplastic, you want that one, that the fruits of his reading met and mingled and transformed one another till they became unrecognizable. Lewis is pointing out very nicely that Spencer, like Rowling, read all kinds of stuff, and it just sort of all went in there, like Rowling, her compost heap. It all sorts of it goes in there, and then who knows what's going to come out. And that certainly is the case with Isis Church. We have all of this strange Egyptian mythology. It's very pagan. And yet this is all part of this beautiful Christian allegorical poem. Book 5, the Book of Justice. We're making this great point about Christian virtues, and yet we do it in this strange pagan temple with a crocodile.
Now I want to jump in here. Spencer is, like Rowling, is an astrologer. These books have planetary stuff, much like where Lewis gets all of his Narnia inspiration. He's got Spencer right there with it. But there's also alchemical pointers in here. We're gonna come back to that. But this image, look at it. I mean, it looks like a tarot card.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
So this was the arts and crafts artist Walter Crane, who made a very famous edition of the Fairy Queen. It's the same edition that when J.K. Rowling changed her header to the Fairy Queen, she used these illustrations to show it.
Floor mill. Right. And so it's a beautiful illustration. Here's, you can see Britomart on the one side here with all of her, and you can see she's got the lion on her shield because she is the representative of England. She and Artegall will marry, and they will their children will, their descendants will become the great kings of England. That's their destiny. They're really meant to do that. So interestingly enough, and kind of connected to that, while Britomart is here at Isis Church, which is again weirdly everything kind of happening all at once, she has this dream while she is there. It is a very strange dream. And it's a dream that involves Isis and Osiris, who also are types of Artegall and Britomart. So we can, as we're thinking about Cupid and Psyche for Robin and Strike, we should not also neglect Isis and Osiris as the same kinds of figures. In the dream, the crocodile representing Osiris comes to life and actually impregnates Britomart. She has this strange dream. Now, because she is the Knight of Chastity, that would imply that he is representing Artegall, her husband. She would not be engaging in any other kind of relationship with anybody but Artegall, her husband. And then she gives birth to in this vision, in this dream, to a lion. Now, obviously, that's our lion from, and my feline makes an appearance. Right on cue, Miss Fisher. Excellent. Miss Fisher wanted to be part of the program. Okay. Father Brown was here earlier, but you didn't see him. He was hiding down below. But the lion is, of course, representative of their destiny to forge the rulers of England. But we've already seen a child named Lion in this story. We have that the poor kid whose parents are brother and sister. And so is he going to come back? I don't know. Are we going to see that again? Or are we going to see more of sort of the Britishness of Robin and Strike and what they are doing for the country? Maybe they're going to save the country. Maybe that ticking bomb is sort of a I don't know, a Guy Fawkes sort of business there. Who knows? But we certainly are going to see some references in this book to something that's taking us back to what's happening in the Fairy Queen. That's why there's a crocodile.
Wow.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Just occurred to me when you're talking about this. Could that be Dino Longcaster? Like sort of the remnant of the dinosaurs.
In some ways, but it's interesting that because he's an Osiris figure, and I think of crocodilians pretty negatively based on my experiences in Florida, but and I feel there's always some awful story about somebody in Florida. It's a little bit like I always tell people about honeybees. If you get stung by a honeybee, it was your fault. If you build your subdivision on top of the swamp and then you take your Pomeranian for a walk, don't be surprised when the crocodilian, the alligator, comes up out of the swamp and chases your Pomeranian. You brought food to his home. What did you expect? And so they just sort of do what they do, but they tend to have these sort of negative connotations. But to the Egyptians, that's different. And there's definitely this Egyptian Osiris. So if John's right and something awful happens to Robin, I don't know that if resurrection is certainly on the table. We have Osiris.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, two books that I think Rowling definitely has.
Yes.
Are Killo's Dictionary of Symbols.
Nope.
And even more important, I think, is Lindy Abraham's Dictionary of Alchemical Imagery. And in both of these books, you get crocodile evidences. It's not something that just weirdly comes out of Spencer's imagination. He's an occultist, what we'd call an occultist today, though obviously, a devout Christian. And the word that you saw Elizabeth kind of laugh and shudder at when Lewis described his understanding as esemplastic. That is an Aztecian neologism, if you want to use those crazy words. That's a word invented by Coleridge. That Coleridge talked about a vision which brings all things together into one in their unity. And so he brings all of these things, his Christian imagery, his medieval romance, his the pagan stories of Osiris, and the occult images of the crocodile. It's a fascinating process. I'm sure one that things, and maybe we're gonna have to get into Barry's Peter Pan and the crocodile in there, but
TikTok. The crocodile.
Also right next to a timepiece.
Yeah.
There you go. Just saying. I have to go back to the Olympic opening ceremony to see the relationship of Rowling with Peter Pan here.
Yes.
Anyway, the Abraham says the mercurial serpent or transforming arcanum in its initial chthonic aspect during the dark destructive opening of the opus alchemicum. That's what a crocodile is. Chthonic meaning basically underground and buried. Like the bee, the crocodile was classified as a serpent in the bestiaries of the 16th and 17th centuries. The amphibious nature of the crocodile made it an apt symbol for the dual-natured Mercurius. Okay, then he quotes Lepidus in Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, who says, "Your serpent of Egypt is bred of your mud by the operation of your sun, so is your crocodile." He is referring to the generation of gold in the earth and the generation of the mercurial serpent through the heat of the secret fire or sun. With the phrase operation of your sun, Lepidus also alludes to the final law of the alchemical emerald table. That which I had to say about the operation of the sun is completed. Antony and Cleopatra, Romeo and Juliet. I got a crocodile in here. Meeting of two worlds, basically land and water. This is an absolutely amphibious creature, which is about, again, soul and spirit. Wow. This is
and
as
it lays
laden
eggs.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, this is about as laden as it gets. And frankly, I saw Elizabeth's comment on Nick's post. I was like, oh, baby. I got. Please, Elizabeth, be available for this talk. Because if you're a Spencer fan, that bizarro image is like, I think Spencerians, have like tarot cards with crocodiles on them, because that's like their secret calling card. Didn't Lewis, I think you told me this, Lewis wrote that just as the church in book 1 is a critical thing, so the Church of Osiris.
Yes. And it's interesting.
Isis.
Yeah, this is in his English literature in the 16th century. So, which is fantastic Lewis scholarship. But yes, he says that each of the books of the Fairy Queen, which of course he loved and knew very well, and as we've often said, he's gotten to read those other 6 books now, because that's what he wanted when he got to heaven, was to see that Spencer had gotten finished and written the other 6 books. But he says that each of the books of the Fairy Queen has this emblematic house. The House of Holiness is the really obvious one from book 1, but that in book 5, and book 5's weird in a lot of ways, and many, that's one of the reasons why people don't normally read book 5, but that the house, or the building, the emblematic building, is Isis Church, which is really strange.
With a fecund crocodile in it. I mean, a horny crocodile is going at it. All right, we spent a lot of time on this, but boy, I love this. Nick, we got other things below this, some other images. Yeah, that's the book you want for anything to do with alchemy. And really, when you see a bizarre animal in the book, you're going right to Lindy Abraham. If you know Rowling and her alchemy is a big deal. When she says that she had, she's got a whole what was her word? A wheelbarrow full of books or something about alchemy. This is right at the top of the pile. I'm convinced. She hasn't said that, but I'm convinced it is. Next image, Nick. Let's. I mean, I just noticed that this book on alchemy, just came out recently, has the crocodile as the
bird.
I just Elizabeth, help me out. What's the name of the snake that eats its own tail?
The endless
the
serpent.
Ouroboros. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ouroboros. Yeah,
Ouroboros.
The Ouroboros image
Yes,
with the crocodile is because of that chthonic imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Chthonic, about it being underground, and the alligator being something that lives under the water and comes up into the air. Robin is going underground in this thing. Undercover, maybe, but also maybe she's going to hell.
Strike fans would be excited by the symbol of the swan as well.
Swan.
Just saying. We're not getting any kickbacks from Marlene Seven Bremner, but there we go. On to the next piece.
Okay. So the next charm. So this is a charm. It's on its own link. It is a member of the crow family, probably raven or a crow itself. It's certainly a corvid. In my head, I've been trying to make it look like a chough, which is the national bird of Cornwall, to go with the flower of Yorkshire. We've got Cornwall and Yorkshire. I can't convince myself. This beak is too thick to be a chough. So it is a crow. We know J.K. Rowling has had headers of crows in the long distant past, which we'd never really had a payoff for.
There was the Corvid in the Fantastic Beasts series, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we've had a raven interrupt Strike in Run and Grave in Denmark Streak. But this, I think, hints to something more significant towards the close of book 9.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that the two animals referenced are right next to each other in the link, and they're on facing pages in Abraham's book. The crocodile and the crow are right across the page from each other. And Nick, you're right. The crow in alchemical imagery is the negretto, is the putrefaction and the breakdown of the person. Not for those people that are really hoping that Robin survives. It's going to have to be a metaphorical survival, because the negretto is really the destruction of the person. And she's already, I mean, how many more trips to the ICU can she take? It's going to be an induced coma. I mean, what are they going to do with this woman? This, I think, means that we'll have some resolution to her breakdown. That's and of course the crow is, because it eats dead bodies. You know, it's something of a buzzard. It has death symbolism, always has. You know, it eats dead bodies.
So for UK and European viewers, the European buzzard is very different from the North American buzzard, which is North American buzzard is very much a scavenger, sort of vulture type of creature.
Yeah.
In Europe, our buzzards are sort of like smaller eagles. They go after rabbits and pigeons and the occasional seagull, but not so much a scavenger.
Yeah, our buzzards go after the same animals, but only when they've been run over by cars.
That's right, primarily, yes. It's interesting too that it might, if it's a raven instead of a crow, well, and they're both corvids, which nobody really noticed that word until everybody misspelled COVID 5 years ago and kept getting that. It's like we have to be treated for crow infestation, but. The raven, of course, obviously, you know, every reader, and we've already brought up Coleridge. We might as well bring up Poe, that so we can have our romantic voices here. And this is, and I'm not siding with John at all, but on this. But as Poe said in The Philosophy of Composition, the most romantic topic that you can possibly write about is the death of a beautiful woman. Now, we've already had the most beautiful woman ever, Charlotte, who's dead. Yeah. So perhaps that merely means that we will revisit what really happened to Charlotte. Many of us just sort of thought that was over, you know, like, okay, she's dead. Fine. You know, it's a little bit like, you know, in a Dickens story, you're like, is little Nell dead yet? For heaven's sake, how long are we dragging this out? But we do have the idea that perhaps that raven is reminding us that we are going to have a little, you know, perhaps not the lost Lenore, but that we will have a beautiful woman whose death is our most romantic topic in this book.
I'm just hoping that our last two charms can't be connected to death in the underworld.
Oh, you're out of luck. Jokes on you.
Wow, there you go. I think there's also a bird that features prominently in the Cupid and Psyche myth that helps Psyche in the thing. So maybe that's, you know, more of that variety of bird. But Nick, I'm telling you, on we go. What's the? I mean, so we have the clock, and then the image from paradise at the end, you know, where the soul in its perfection goes. We have a crocodile, which with the crow are symbols of the Negretto and the you know the breakdown of the human person and memento mori. Yeah, these are tokens of death. Yeah. And now we get a Psalter.
Okay, so this is a Psalter. It's described by J.K. Rowling as her favorite charm on this bracelet. She says, although she doesn't call it a Psalter, she says it contains psalms in the plural. These again are relatively common. You can purchase them new. I found 3 of the same design. And this design. She shared a second photograph where we can see the cross on the front to confirm the design. Of the 3 I found online, 2 of them were empty, so they didn't contain anything. And 1 contained Psalm 23. Again, Rowling says Psalms. That may have been a slip of the keyboard. Looking at similar but different designs, it's common to have Psalm 23. It's common to have the 12 Commandments, and it's common to have the Lord's Prayer. So they're not necessarily just contain psalms, but I think it's likely that one of the psalms, if there's more than one, is going to be Psalm 23.
Well, Nick, I mean, Beatrice Groves in her piece that's on S&E Files made the same case. It's a good case. I mean, we have you know the line from Psalm 23 that jumps out at you. Of course, is the Valley of Death. That you know that this is the psalm you say about your gratitude to God for guiding you through the greatest difficulty, to include a journey to hell. Oh my goodness. That's isn't that a great thing? That she would be chanting that. But I'm gonna because I'm just that contrarian guy, Nick. I'm not gonna agree with you or Beatrice Groves, who are experts in this kind of thing. I want to say it's going to be Psalm 90.
Okay.
Which in translations of the Masoretic text, which is the 3rd century AD version of the Psalter that we have in Hebrew, the numbering is 91. In the Greek translation of the original Hebrew, the numbering is Psalm 90, the so-called Septuagint. And that's, of course, as an Orthodox Christian, that's the one we use. So I'm going to call it Psalm 90. Don't be upset if that's not your numbering in your King James version, whatever version you're using. Psalm 90 is often called the soldier's psalm because it is profoundly about calling in the protection of God. And there are marvelous legends in the United Kingdom about RAF pilots that were protected by memorizing this and saying this on all their missions, especially the pilots battling in the over the skies of London in the Battle of Britain. There's a story about the 91st Battalion that the commanding officer gave all of his men cards with the 91st Psalm on it. And that if they memorized it, they came through with, they went through some, like, I think the 91st Battalion, I don't know how you do your military divisions over there, Nick, but that apparently they came through 3 of the most intense battles where the English took as much as 80% casualties, and they came through without fatalities. So there's this legend about it being the soldier's psalm, and there's no way that Strike doesn't know that, and there's no way that Sean Harris or D.B. Brooks, Diane Brooks hasn't also shared that with thing. I would accept that I'm going to predict that the 90th or the 91st Psalm is inside that thing, and or that Strike is saying it, teaching it to her, or maybe the old crone, that the Jungian psychologist is telling her, try this, dear. This is a talisman. This is the charm bracelet that literally has the charm that is a prayer, that really is the expression of this heart, this voice, this word within you. And you memorize this thing, which is the poem of protection from God in there. This is so rich. And Psalm 23, forgive me, Nick, is such a commonplace. Psalm 90, though, 91 is part of the Orthodox liturgical cycle. It's said every day at the 6th hour, the hour which is said at noon, just before liturgies. It's the divine liturgy. I mean, it's an incredibly rich psalm, and very few people outside of the military have it memorized. I'm not going to read it here. Maybe I'll put my favorite translation of it, which is by Donald Sheehan, in the things down below. But you can see someone saying that as they journey into battle, in going through that valley of death. This is the prayer that is on their lips. Just saying. But yeah, the fact that there's a literal talisman, this prayer inside the charm, I can see why it's Rowling's favorite. Not that she has the Psalter memorized. It used to be in the 3rd and 4th centuries, you couldn't be ordained as a priest in the Christian church unless you had the Psalter memorized, all 150 plus. That's where we're at here, is that kind of union or communion with God in Christ is what that prayer is about, and the protective power, because you can't die so much as you have overcome death inside the body of Christ, who has defeated death. Your ego existence, your historical existence, yes, it can die, but not this logos within you, what makes you actually unique. Again, we're going pull this charm together, Nick.
Yeah.
And we're going to see the beginning here at the end. And linked with it on the same thing, Nick.
Okay, so on the same link and the last charm on the bracelet, and I am eternally grateful to J.K. Rowling for showing us a clearer image of that end of the bracelet. Prior to putting this image up, we had this at the top, and this was giving me Cambodian or Thai temple statues, which would have put me entirely in the wrong area. I found the actual charm. It's a brand new charm. It's not vintage or antique, and it is the face of Persephone. So this manufacturer uses lots of Greek, largely female Greek characters to design their jewelry, but this is the one that is advertised as Persephone. John,
is that a second charm there, Nick? A bracelet. What is that in the lower right there? It looks like a different.
It's just turned. It's just a different angle.
Oh yeah, so this is so here this is the same charm bracelet, but lots of people were complaining, me included. I couldn't get a good fix on the last chime, so very kindly she took another photograph. Not only do we get the front of the Psalter so we can see the cross on it, again to help us confirm the design, we get a better look at this Corvid, and we get the face of Persephone here.
And Persephone, anybody?
Cupid and Psyche, John.
Yeah, you see our posts on Cupid and Psyche. That Robin actually goes through hell, is going there to get this. What is it? A perfume, basically. A
casket of beauty.
Casket of beauty. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole goal of her time to hell. And this is the last class, I think, when we discuss, where we are in the myth, that she has Persephone at the finish, suggests that she's going to have gone through hell at this point. Whether she's surfaced from hell or she's still chthonic, she's still underground, we don't know yet with the crocodiles. But she'll have gone to hell and either achieved or failed to achieve her goal in getting there with the guidance from the tower in the myth. Whew. So that's a lot. That's
Isn't
a lot. And an amazing composition that Rowling has gifted her serious readers with, and that really does make it tough, I think, for people to read this book at a superficial level. I mean, you can read it at the plot level. It's going to be a very satisfying story. We know that. That's what Rowling does. But like Elizabeth, she's got some crocodiles in her lake, and she's taking those crocodiles out and baptizing them in the shed and bringing them up to a real story. And Ed Shardlow, I'm right with you, buddy. This is about that inner light story that she talked about as the what Casual Vacancy is all about.
Yeah.
Is this light of God shining forth from every soul. And she's about that perfection of soul in spirit. Hence her taking Shakespearean drama and this formula of male and female, soul and spirit, and their unification, usually in death. And then they transcend the world. And that's what marriage is about. That's why we have a golden ring. That's why we have a charm bracelet here with it's all being in gold. I mean, the hearts, the diamonds. I mean, it's just beating us over the head that she's going for some really large game here. And that crocodile and the pointer dispenser, it doesn't get much, richer than that.
No,
I
think that is for me, that's the key takeaway, because it's everything we've come up with prior to that really didn't have any depth. And if Rowling is about anything, she is about depth of artistry.
But you're killing me, Nick, by saying all that stuff I said about the heart and the diamonds and the cross and the egg. All that was just tat.
John, specifically for the crocodile, John. Specifically for the crocodile.
He's just here for the reptile.
Woo! Okay. Boy, there's a crocodile in this lake. I'm looking at him. He lives in Wales. He's right on the Bristol Channel. That was tough. Pull that thing right out. Wow. Anyway, yeah, this is. I think Rowling is she's. I think Rowling Incorporated wants her to do something around Christmas time to bring people back into interest that's positive and exciting. She wants to it's fan servicing. She wants to give us something to chew on. But all of these things and their weight. Yeah, they have pointers to where the plot may go, and people can speculate on that and get all excited about that. But there's also this allegorical, there's literary, there's anagogical symbolism inside this stuff. This is she's trying to point to what she's after, why she's written this 10-book series, and we've done that. We can check that box now. We've tried to figure it out. We've gone to our usual sources. We've tied it into what she's done in the past in Harry Potter, Christmas Pig, Casual Vacancy. We've done our Lake and Shed stuff. This was a landmark event. I didn't see it as such until I read your piece, Nick, and then we've had our conversations. Then Elizabeth chimed in with the Spencer's thing, and that just took me right out of the water, the way a crocodile should. Gets you right out of there. Thank you both. This has just been a delight. I mean, are you with me on this? I mean, is again, I with my, here's my, my Christian library behind me, but what, am I making this up? Come on, guys.
No. I love the whole, and I'm so glad that Nick's given us like the whole legacy of the charm bracelets for her, because the way a charm bracelet works is you add things to it as your journey goes on in life. And I do think she's been working on this one for a long time. And I think it's interesting that she takes us right back to the Fairy Queen, because we have all these knights in armor, and that's sort of what they do. Their armor is emblematic, whether it's Arthur and his shield, it's really neat, or Britomart herself, who's wearing somebody else's armor. Many of the knights do. They collect bits of other people's armor. They lose theirs, they get it back. So in a way, I'm starting to see this, and I love the way you pointed that out, Nick. It's almost as though these charm bracelets through her life, both the real ones and the literary one of Robin's that's still sitting in the box there, we just hope she puts it on, that those are armor. They have that same kind of role to play. So I don't think we can overstate the importance of the picture, and especially the fact that she was so generous in showing. She wants us to see all those knights when they have. They want you to see the rampant lion, to know this is the team I'm on. And so this is. I don't think that's overstating it at all, and I don't think that we're exaggerating the importance of this piece. It's much more than a piece of shiny jewelry that shows off how much money she makes, that she's able to buy whatever charm she wants.
You remind me that probably the most famous line in Psalm 90/91 is, there's a lot of shield stuff in here, but thou shalt tread upon asp and basilisk. Thou shalt trample the lion and the dragon. Well, Elizabeth, you showed us that you got a crocodile and a lion in there, and that the way to get through all that, is Scripture. Faith in God. And that's Rowling says that's the vacuum of her life. That's the one belief that she struggles with. I'm not sure really if she's being honest there, but she understands that almost all of her readers, as postmoderns, that's the question in their life that they've probably put on a shelf, because in postmodernity, it's assumed all those questions have already been answered, so we can ignore them. Here, she's bringing them right up out of the chthonic, dungeon. She's bringing up all these crocodiles about faith and the soul and spirit and religious tradition, and our thing. I mean, she's really playing for big game.
Yes,
for big game. Now, that's Nick is amazing. The seeker here. How do you experience that? I mean,
yeah, I think Rowling is easy to read because unless you look for the artistry and meaning, all you get is the effect. And that's what drew me into, I mean, not just reading Rowling, but that's what got me into starting to read again, is the effect. It's only when I you call me a seeker, when I went trying to find out how on earth this worked, that I discovered your work and Elizabeth's work and Louise's work on trying to understand it, and you know, the only place really that was giving me answers as to what was going on here.
And now you're driving the wagon, Nick.
Yeah, and some
wow,
yeah.
just
so somehow the cult has sucked me in. But today has been wonderful. John, Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our subscribers. Please let us know what you think in the comments down below. And what's up next, John?
Well, we got two things. We've got the first thing is you complain, Nick, that we don't tell people what we're going to be reading. I think we need to read Robert Browning's The Ring in the book, because it's of the epigraphs in this book. It's very much like Aurora Lee was to Ink Black Heart. It's the epigraph that occurs most often, and that we can almost safely assume that it has some part of that, and it's a murder mystery. So I mean, it's Robert Browning, which is sort of the Browning set, and it's got a murder mystery in it. So let's take a look at that. There's the name stuff, and I think I mentioned this already. We want to do a show about Cupid and Psyche again, and where we're at, especially in light of Persephone being the last charm on that link. So we've got a lot of things going on here. Elizabeth, you know, I hope that you survive the snow apocalypse of 2026 in the mountains of North Carolina.
It's what we do.
Yeah. Here's the thing about it is I know you've seen worse. You've seen worse in the last 18 months, right? I mean, this is, I mean, wow, snow, ice, and flood. Wow, I mean, it's just
the hurricane was a little bit of a surprise. We're not that surprised by snow. So.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, we're halfway through the chain.
Yeah.
And this is probably a good time for us to break.
Okay.
But you definitely want to come back, because after we're going to get that crocodile. We're going to get Persephone. We're going to get the White Rose of Yorkshire. We've got.
And we start off with a bang, right?
Yeah, seriously. You know, I'm going to burn this effing city to the ground. You know, we're going to go right into Troy and the end of Troy, and Hector, whose name means actor. This is it could be richer than what we're going to see in the second half of this chain. We got to break this up because there's just too much goodness, and no one's going to watch, you know, hours and hours and hours of this stuff. So if we can just take a break here,
brilliant.
Elizabeth, go out and shovel the snow off your car. I'm gonna have to go inside out of my. I mean, the inside's bigger than the outside of my little shed here, but it's cold inside here. I'm gonna go get some hot cocoa and then come back, and we'll talk more about the remaining charms on this bracelet.
Wonderful. We'll see everyone soon.